To my YouTube channel Mahi News. Maryland's Supreme Court reinstated Adnan Syed's convictions in a ruling Friday, but he will remain free, while his case returns to Baltimore Circuit Court. The order essentially restarts the process after the Baltimore State's Attorney's Office filed a motion to vacate Syed's conviction for the 1999 killing of Hae Min Lee, who was strangled to death and buried in a clandestine grave in Baltimore's Leakin Park, citing a violation of her brother Young Lee's right to participate in the subsequent hearing. The court's 4-3 ruling does not require Syed, who was freed nearly 2 years ago, to be incarcerated again while the case continues. On remand, the parties and Mr. Lee will begin where they were immediately after the state's attorney filed the motion to vacate, the court wrote, in an opinion published online Friday morning. Syed and his attorney Erica Suter could not be reached immediately for comment. In a statement Friday, Lee's attorney David Sanford said the court's decision affirmed crime victims' rights to be treated with dignity, respect and sensitivity. The Supreme Court acknowledges what Hae Min Lee's family has argued. Crime victims have a right to be heard in court, Sanford said. He said the Lee family will now get the chance to address the merits of prosecutors' motion to vacate Syed's convictions, adding that the public has not yet seen compelling evidence that supports throwing out the case. The new hearing would take place under the administration of a different state's attorney, Ivan Bates, and be handled by a new prosecutor after Becky Feldman's departure from the office. Bates, who took office in January, said while campaigning that he believed Syed's conviction was flawed and he should be freed. "We need some time to figure out what's going on with this 185-page opinion," Bates told reporters Friday. The decision comes nearly 11 months after state Supreme Court justices questioned lawyers for Syed and Lee at oral argument October 6. Syed's legal saga rose to international renown with the hit podcast, Serial, which debuted in 2014. The show examined Hae Min Lee's killing, as well as the subsequent prosecution of Syed, her former high school sweetheart. A jury in 2000s found Syed guilty of murder and related charges in Lee's death, with a judge later sentencing Syed to life plus 30 years in prison. The convictions withstood numerous appeals from Syed, who maintained his innocence as years turned to decades behind bars. His break came in 2021, when Baltimore prosecutors began reviewing his case in consideration of a new law allowing people convicted of crimes before they turned 18 to petition a court to reconsider their penalty. The review spawned a full-throttled reinvestigation of the case, which, prosecutors said, revealed alternative suspects in Lee's killing not before disclosed to Syed. The revelation led prosecutors to lose faith in the integrity of his decades-old conviction. They moved to vacate the guilty findings and Syed walked free after 23 years behind bars in September 2022. Questions, however, loomed about that hearing to undo Syed's convictions. On a late Friday afternoon that month, the presiding judge scheduled the vacatur proceeding for the following Monday. Prosecutors then informed Hae Min Lee's brother, Young Lee, saying he could watch the hearing by Zoom. But a lawyer for Young Lee insisted his client, who lived in California, wanted to attend in person and wasn't given enough time to travel. Though he was allowed to speak at the hearing by Zoom, Young Lee filed an appeal before prosecutors dismissed Syed's charges in October of that year, arguing the short notice violated his rights as a crime victim. The Intermediate Appellate Court of Maryland sided with Lee, ordering in March 2023 that Syed's convictions be reinstated for a do-over of the hearing to vacate them. Syed promptly appealed to the state Supreme Court, which held off on reinstating his charges while it considered whether to take up his case, and Young Lee followed suit, arguing the appeals court's ruling didn't go far enough for crime victims. Last June, the Supreme Court accepted and combined the dueling appeals from Syed and Lee. In the majority opinion, the Supreme Court justices agreed that Lee should have had more notice of the hearing that cleared Syed's convictions, as well as the opportunity to attend in person and speak. However, they disagreed that Lee or his attorney had the right to call witnesses or present evidence. 3 justices dissented from the majority's opinion. Calling the case a procedural zombie, now retired Justice Michelle D. Houghton wrote that Lee had no right to appeal because prosecutors had dismissed Syed's charges. Houghton also disagreed with the majority's interpretation of crime victims' rights. Justice Brynja McDivitt Booth wrote in another dissenting opinion that the majority's ruling could have implications for the separation of powers by creating a right for victims to be heard that doesn't exist in state law. The majority also rewrites the victims' rights statutes to provide a right where the legislature has declined to provide one. Respectfully, it is not our role to act as a super legislature when we think our policies are better, she wrote.